We're pleased to be joined now by the West Bloomfield Township Supervisor, Steve Kaplan, joining us once again on the MegaCast. Steve, thank you for being with us today.
Good morning, Tyler.
Good to have you with us. So, we're getting into the fall season, and as we head into the fall, one of the first things that usually comes up in West Bloomfield Township is the second household hazardous waste event of the year. Tell us about how it will operate this year with COVID-19 still in mind, still all outdoors, but precautions still need to be taken, correct?
Tyler, we have revised the format. We think it'll be an improvement for our residents. So you know the dates. It'll be Saturday, October the 2nd, between 9 and 2, 9 in the morning until 2 in the afternoon. And this will not include shredding. Shredding will be held on a separate date.
We're joined by Steve Kaplan. He's the West Bloomfield Township Supervisor. So where did that decision come from? Why did that decision ultimately be made to have shredding be on a separate day and the hazardous waste be on its own day instead of when they usually were together and shredding was just on the back end of the cycle that people would go through to recycle their goods from their home?
Good question. We have determined that approximately 50% of the visitors to household hazardous waste were there solely for shredding or mainly for shredding. And therefore, if we separated the shredding date from the regular household hazardous waste date, then it would be handled more rapidly and more efficiently, and our residents would not have to wait as long, and there wouldn't be as much gasoline wasted while motorists are waiting in line.
And let's talk more about the traffic situation, because it does create a little bit of a bottleneck on Walnut Lake Road, where people are lined up usually throughout the Civic Center campus onto Walnut Lake Road. How do you go about with your police department redirecting traffic in the township to make sure that this advantageous opportunity for residents in West Bloomfield and in surrounding communities that are able to participate can have this service twice a year, but that also doesn't interrupt other business that's going on in people's daily lives in the neighborhoods and other places around the city campuses?
Good question, Tyler. So what we have decided to do, and by the way, I think you touched upon this, but this not only applies to West Bloomfield residents, but Keego Harbor, Sylvan Lake, and Orchard Lake residents can and will participate in household hazardous waste. What we realized is that traffic would be backed up perhaps all the way from Orchard Lake Road west to the Civic Center campus, and people would not be able to leave their subdivisions or even the church. What we have decided to do then to conquer that problem, or at least partially conquer it, is by not allowing motorists to line up in advance. So as you know, the event begins at 9. Formally, vehicles would begin to line up at 8, and then traffic would be backed up for perhaps 3/4 of a mile. Instead, nobody will be allowed to enter the campus until 9 o'clock or 5 to 9. And that means some motorists will be driving around and perhaps waiting on a side street, but we're hoping to publicize this, and partially thanks to you today, that motorists will know that they should wait until about 10 to 9 to drive to Town Hall.
We're joined by Steve Kaplan. He is the West Bloomfield Township Supervisor. We're currently speaking about their upcoming household hazardous waste collection event. It's their second and final for the 2021 calendar year. That's coming up on Saturday, October 2nd from 9 a.m. until 2 p.m. At the Civic Center campus on Walnut Lake Road here in West Bloomfield. It's open to...
Oh, Tyler?
Yes.
May I interject?
Sure.
As you know, Friday, October 1, the township will be providing the same services to senior citizens only between 4 and 6:30 in the afternoon. So during that 2.5-hour segment, seniors only can arrive on our campus and gain household hazardous waste services. That should reduce the amount of traffic, Tyler, on the following Saturday.
We're joined by Steve Kaplan, West Bloomfield Township Supervisor. Learn more about household hazardous waste and other municipal business in West Bloomfield Township by going to their website at wbtownship.org or by going to our website, civiccentertv.com/coronavirus, and clicking on the West Bloomfield Township link. And on the coronavirus front, Steve, previously, the Township Board had decided that they were going to plan to return to in-person meetings mid-September. We're in mid-September. The Township is still in virtual meetings and ultimately voted against going back in person temporarily. What decision was made ultimately by the Township Board, and what was the rationale behind that decision?
In July, the Township Board unanimously decided at a public meeting that virtual meetings would vanish effective September 13, 2021, and all board meetings would be live. But then, as you know, the resurgence occurred, and township officials, township elected officials were concerned about the spreading of the coronavirus. In fact, people who had the COVID one time might have it a second time, or even more importantly, that those who had been fully vaccinated might contract the virus. So long story short, through the end of the year, through 2021, all of our meetings, and this includes Environmental Commission, Planning Commission, and Zoning Commission, all meetings will be held virtually and not live. And then beginning January the 1st of 2022, live meetings will resume.
Any chance of that being reevaluated at any point in the next month or a couple of months before the beginning of the new year, should the COVID-19 situation change here in West Bloomfield and Oakland County in the state of Michigan?
Good question. I think that decision would be made in early December, but sure, if the numbers keep increasing or remain steady, we might continue to have virtual meetings throughout the spring of 2022. But the plan is to be back in action live, face-to-face, on January 1, 2022.
We're joined by Steve Kaplan. He is the West Bloomfield Township Supervisor with us today on the MegaCast. Again, their upcoming household hazardous waste collection event, which is open to West Bloomfield, Keego Harbor, Orchard Lake, and Sylvan Lake residents, is coming up on Friday, October 1st, 4 to 6 p.m. for seniors, and then for the general public in those 4 communities, Saturday, October 2nd, from 9 a.m. until 2 p.m. Then there's also an additional shredding event. Steve, what is the date on that? Do you know?
In November the 6th, between 9 and 1.
November 6th, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Again, that is for the shredding event. We're joined by Steve Kaplan, West Bloomfield Township Supervisor, on the MegaCast. Learn more about township business, including household hazardous waste and the shredding event, by going to their website at wbtownship.org. And ongoing now through mid to late November, the Water and Utilities Department is doing their fire hydrant flushing. That's already ongoing. That's happening Monday through Friday between 8 a.m. and 3 p.m. At various points throughout the township. Why is that happening right now? What went into the decision to do those flushings now, and why such a spread out period?
Sure. Well, safety is paramount. Nobody wants to call a fire department and find out that the water pressure is low and the fire cannot be extinguished. So it's a collaboration, it's a combination between our Water Utilities Department, and as you know, Ed Hoppala is our Water Utilities Director since 2005, and then the Fire Department is the partner, and it's Greg Flynn, Fire Chief for the last 7 years. But these are very sharp people, Tyler, and they try to be protective, prophylactic, preventing fires, and making sure that if there is a fire, that sufficient water pressure will occur.
We're joined by Steve Kaplan. He is the West Bloomfield Township Supervisor with us today on the MegaCast. And we touched previously on municipal meetings and how COVID-19 is impacting those. What's the status with township business? What is the status over at Town Hall? Are things back to normal over there? Are there some precautions in place still for people that may need to do some municipal business?
We are proud to share with you and your audience that we have been open for business throughout. We closed to the public for a 6-week period between the end of March and early May, but even then we were open. But let's say somebody needed a permit, we would make arrangements to meet them outside Town Hall. So business was as usual. We had some people working at home remotely because their jobs would permit that, like our pension director or our payroll director or purchasing director. But in terms of our, we're open, we're happy to be open, and it will continue to be that way. Oh, your other question was what protection is needed. So anybody visiting Town Hall, entering any township building, must wear a face covering unless he or she has been fully vaccinated, meaning both shots if it's Pfizer plus 14 days. And I think our residents are honoring it. Now at Town Hall, all employees either must be fully vaccinated, or if they're not, they have to wear face coverings, and they have to maintain 6-foot social distancing, and they have to wash their hands frequently. But nearly everybody at Town Hall has been vaccinated, but we're not requiring full vaccination as a condition of continuing employment. We feel that our employees are very trustworthy. We feel that they're careful, and we don't feel they should lose their jobs if they have religious or other reasons in not gaining the full vaccination.
We're joined by Steve Kaplan. He is the West Bloomfield Township Supervisor. Joining us today on the MegaCast. They have their upcoming Household Hazardous Waste event. Of course, that is on Friday, October 1st for senior citizens between 4 o'clock and 6 o'clock p.m. at the Town Hall campus. And then on Saturday, October 2nd from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. for the rest of the population. And at this Household Hazardous Waste event, Steve, just want to make sure that residents of the 4 communities that are eligible for this event are well prepared. What can they and should they be bringing with them to recycle at this event?
It's all encompassing other than shredding, and I'll read some of the items or tell you about some of the items. Paint, stain, gasoline, oil, fertilizers, chemicals, electronics, including computers, light bulbs, batteries, and expired medications.
We're joined by Steve Kaplan. He is the West Bloomfield Township Supervisor with us today on the MegaCast. In terms of the shredding event, people go to these events and they do their own shredding, of course, as well at home to prevent sensitive information from being leaked through trash, of course, and through other means, as some people do dig through trash and dig through other materials in order to find some of that sensitive information and take advantage of that. In terms of this shredding event, what does West Bloomfield Township do in order to ensure that the contractors that are coming in and assisting with this event are securely disposing of these documents?
Well, good question, and a common inquiry here is, how do I know, the resident will inquire, how do I know that my materials are actually being shredded as opposed to landing in a dumpster? Because this information is confidential to me, the homeowner, and the answer is, as you suggested, the shredding occurs on premises. So the motorist arrives, does not leave his car, and we then have volunteers, including elected township officials, who remove boxes and bags of material that needs to be shredding from the back seat of the vehicle or the trunk of the vehicle, and then we immediately place it in a truck, which has the shredding device, and the papers then are destroyed or shredded into smithereens forevermore.
We're joined by Steve Kaplan. He is the West Bloomfield Township Supervisor with us today on the MegaCast. Learn more information about the Household Hazardous Waste event that's coming up in October, the November 6th, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Township shredding event, also at the Town Hall campus, by going to their website at wbtownship.org. That is, again, wbtownship.org. And Steve, before we let you go, anything else that would be important for West Bloomfield residents to know right now about what's going on in West Bloomfield Township regarding COVID-19 or other important projects that are being discussed at the township level?
Thank you. Yes, we have approved several projects, several buildings and businesses on Orchard Lake Road. I think residents will be pleased to know that we might have a market, a Mediterranean market with fresh produce and meat, which will open at the former Barnes & Noble bookstore. Of course, takes time for these businesses to be constructed, but we have a new apartment building, as you know, Tyler, 192 units. It's just behind Panera, north of 14 Mile off of Orchard Lake Road. It's a 4-story building. And then we recently approved, or we're in the process of approving, a 5-story upper scale apartment building at the former Performance Auto, the dealership right next to Cawley Ferrari. So I think residents will be pleased to know that we have some upgraded construction and buildings and businesses, and that these are environmentally sound and sensitive, because Township knows that the residents want us to maintain high environmental standards.
We're joined by Steve Kaplan. He's the West Bloomfield Township Supervisor with us today on the MegaCast, talking about all that's going on in West Bloomfield Township, including a lot of those new projects that are ongoing and upcoming that the supervisor spoke about. And of course, you can learn more about all of those by tuning into West Bloomfield's municipal meetings on Civic Center TV. Check our website out for all those meetings on demand. Steve, we appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Tyler.